Hi, it's Nita from Posture Solutions. Thanks for watching. As you've read in the description probably by now, I am talking about slouching, blood flow, oxygen flow, and my cousin actually mentioned the other day that about doing a video about students who are constantly studying slouched over. Now there's a lot of you out there who are in school, or just even if your job is a very sedentary office job where you're constantly slouched over a computer, or you're always writing something down, and so you don't have a lot of movement going on. And I wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit about how you can battle that, how you can combat that, because we can't get away from our jobs, and we have to study if we're in school. So what are some things you can do to help offset that? And so I'm here sitting in an office chair, I guess you could call it. I know some of you sit like this, that have these at your jobs, or maybe if you're sitting studying at work. So basically, it's very hard to sit properly in chairs. I mean, ergonomically, they teach you, there's certain ways, or you can buy a certain chair or get a standing desk, but really it all boils down to what kind of posture you have, how much movement you already have in your joints, muscles. So it doesn't really matter how you sit or stand, it's what your body's doing while you're sitting or standing. The biggest thing, I think, if you want to find ways to sit up straight, is just sitting halfway on your chair, so you're not all the way back here. Sitting halfway on your chair, putting a nice curve back there in your lower back, and feet are hip width apart, nice and straight at 90-degree angle. It's going to be really hard to sit like this for a very, very, very long time because it's always easier to slouch. But if you could just remind yourself every hour or whenever you do remember to sit up and kind of keep training your body that this is more normal than this. So there are some things you can do while you're sitting there. Say you're typing at a computer and you're sitting upright. You could always do some heel raises. Granted your chair doesn't move as much as this one is, but heel raises. You could also do some leg lifts while you're sitting, just making sure you're not slouching while the lower body is working. But you could always take a break. I know a lot of people who work in offices are able to get up and move around. They can take breaks. They can go to the lunchroom. Or if you have your own office, you can stand up next to your desk. And there's a couple things I wanted to show you. Or if you're just sitting there studying and you need to take your brain needs a break, obviously, but so does your body from being stuck in a position. So one thing you could do is you could actually just stand right next to your chair. And because of when you're sitting too much, your glutes, your butt muscles, they're not doing anything. So they become very stagnant. They actually start to kind of atrophy a little bit. Often, the more you sit, if you sit in longer periods, 8 hours a day, versus the amount of time you're standing, these guys back here aren't really doing anything at all. So one way you can get them to wake up is we're going to do something called inline glute contractions. So this also helps with any hip disparity you may have. You've got an elevated hip, or if you're rotated or something like that. So what you're going to do is you're going to put one foot in front of the other, right? Heel touching the toe, okay? And you're going to face straight. So I'm kind of turned because of the video, but basically one foot in front of the other. Make sure you may want to hold on if your balance isn't too good. But you're standing nice and tall, so you're not slouching, and you just want to squeeze your butt muscles back there and release them. Squeeze and release. And so because one leg's behind you, you're already kind of getting that muscle engaged a little bit more, so you should probably feel it a little bit more towards the back leg, but you want to feel it in both glutes. Then we're going to switch legs and do the same thing. And you can also, you can test yourself by doing this, because if you do it one way and then you do the other way and you feel like one glute is not working, or you'll notice it, one's not squeezing as well as the other one was, kind of help you understand, okay, well, that side of the hip is not firing as quickly as the other side. So, but if you could just stand up and do 60 on each side, or 30 on each side, and it would just be a really good way to wake up the muscles that help stabilize your hips from the back. It doesn't require a lot of work. You don't even have to walk away out of the room. You're standing right there by your chair and just one leg in front of the other. If balancing one leg from the other is not easy for you, you could always just have your feet nice and straight and do the same thing and just squeeze and release the glute muscles back there. Another thing that I've shown in a previous video is just squeezing and releasing your shoulder blades. And you could do that standing, I prefer you do it against the wall, but you could always do it, standing next to your chair. So those are just some quick tips and tricks. There's also one you could try, if you've got a desk next to you, or if you've got a chair that's pretty high. This one's a little bit high, but it's called a counter stretch. But it's just a good way to get that upper and lower back to stretch out and reset your pelvis a little bit. So what you want to do is, so if you're using a desk, waist high is great. This is a little bit higher, but the concept's going to be the same. You want your feet to be nice and straight. We want to walk back, and we're going to dip down. Okay, and the important thing here is to make sure you create this 90-degree angle with your body. So you're not doing this, and you're not way back there. So you're nice and straight this way, and you want to contract your quads, your big thigh muscles in the front. You want to keep them nice and straight, nice and tight. And then you just dip down, and you want to arch your back a little bit and just try to really put that curve in there and hold that for a minute. If you don't have a chair next to you or a desk or anything that's a good level, you could always use the wall. So you're just going to be a little bit, your arms are going to be just a little bit higher up. But, if you're studying or if you're at work, you obviously have a chair or a desk somewhere around you. So it doesn't take much, but it'll give you a good stretch back here in the hamstrings. And it'll help get that pelvis moving a little bit too from all that sitting as well. Get it nice and nice stable position from all that sitting. So those are just a couple of tips and tricks. And if you wanted to throw in a little bit of I wouldn't want to call it a workout, but just a little bit more demand. You could do something called sit to stand. If you've been sitting for a while, but you really want to kind of get your blood flowing a little bit, you can your heart beating a little bit. Pull your elbows back, feet are nice and straight, and just up and down. This chair is not the best for this. Your office chair might not be the best for it either, but it is something you could try just on a regular chair that doesn't move so much. But making sure those arms are pulled back and just getting those hip flexors and just getting yourself to push up and down, push up and down. So you don't have to leave the room, you don't have to go anywhere, but you get a little bit of get your heart beating a little bit, get your heart pumping, and just get those muscles to stretch out. And it doesn't take much, a couple minutes every day. But what is 8 hours you're sitting hunched over a computer, or 5 hours hunched over your book studying? You've got to break it up. And so if you can break up every hour, every couple hours with just a couple minutes of stretch in there, and the better stretched and the better position you're in increases better blood and oxygen flowing, as I wrote down below, to your brain, which is good for the studying and also good for work, but also just increasing your, how you're feeling and productivity level and stuff like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you've got any questions, feel free to reach out.